Borealum. The Dark Eldar little feared an attack on their base of operations, situated as it was on the dark side of the moon, well within the reaches of the warp storm of Kaurava 4. The seventh ancient gate lay on that moon, but the Dark Eldar, knowing its technology well, had fixed it to work only for them when they had arrived there. The effect of this hubris and the general anarchic nature of Archon Tahril's soldiers resulted in a sprawling makeshift reproduction of Commorragh, the Dark Eldar home city. Surrounding the major war camp lay smaller camps, surrounded by miles of torture ground, a sort of cage garden of the homunculus Grumanael's making. Rich with plunder, enslaved scraps and goods, this area had grown and sprawled. Meanwhile, the center grew dense with powerful Dark Eldar, and the legendary Asdrubael Vect, leader of Tahril's Blackheart Kabal, was said to oversee the war preparations there. To say the Dark Eldar were unprepared for an attack would not be quite accurate. The Dark Eldar are ever ready for battle. It is a sport and a passion to their kind, and there is no such thing as catching them off their guard. Nonetheless, the miles of torture gardens were poorly attended at best, and full of prisoners, many still capable of turning against their captors. For an attacker, there was a faint glimmer of hope.
Ha ha! We are fresh from the fight. We have shed blood. Death, terror, and anguish sang sweetly in our ears.
Ah, but Lord Tahril, have you taken prizes?
Do you doubt me, Grumenea? Many prisoners were taken. We have our tribute to Commorragh, and many left over for our slave chambers, and your torture grounds.
Come, Archon! Come to my torture grounds.
Ha ha!
We win, we lose, win and lose, but always richer with slaves and spoils.
Indeed, we shall be well respected and rewarded when we return to Commorragh.
When we return, if we return. Return the victors, or return the vanquished? My grounds, where screams are flowers, and pain their fragrance. A fine, fine nest we have, high upon the cliff, hard to see, harder still to reach. Will any reach this nest? Will they take away my garden?
Are you questioning my right to lead? My inevitable victory? I am the deadly shadow and the bird of prey. I am the poisoned dagger that brings swift death. These crude and foolish armies know nothing of strategy. If they see a wall, they attack it. If they see an army, they charge at it. They will be too busy with each other to notice us. Or if they do, it will be too late. Worry not. And it is of no matter, we keep a keen watch. If an army approached, surely we would see it coming. Then we would tear it to pieces.
During the Kaurava conflict, the Imperial Guard were some of the hardest hit by Dark Eldar hit-and-run tactics. These raids, often small in size, came under the cover of darkness and at lightning speed. Often, the guardsmen on duty would not have returned a single shot before the Dark Eldar ships were speeding away, laden down with captives and other spoils. When the Dark Eldar first arrived in the Kaurava system, they had been happy to conduct the raiding parties against the Blood Ravens as often as any of the other warring forces within their grasp. However, the Space Marines' position was simply growing to be too great a threat. Archon Tahril took all but 2 leaders as fools in the Kaurava conflict. Force Commander Boreale and General Stubbs. These 2 alone might know where in the shadows to look for his fleets of raiders and ravagers. Had the Dark Eldar refrained from conducting raids on the Blood Ravens, they might have prospered in safety upon Kaurava IV's single moon. But alas, their time had come. Force Commander Indrick Boreale had grown weary of the pestilential nuisance of the Dark Eldar, and felt the time had come to crush them under the pitiless hammer of his Space Marines. In a system of the Imperium, there was no place for the barbaric piracy of the Dark Eldar. Until the time that they were prepared to attack, Commander Boreale was barely able to tolerate the savage raiding and dishonorable tactics of the Black Heart Kabal. As the Space Marines' power grew great, Commander Boreale saw his chance and decided to wipe the Dark Eldar from the system. The Blood Ravens looked down on and despised the cowardly, skulky methods of warfare that the Dark Eldar employed. Still, these vile Xenos posed a sufficient threat to the system and had to be dealt with. It was time to give them a taste of their own tactics.
Lord Tahril, enemies have infiltrated by way of the Torture Gardens. How was this allowed to happen? I don't know, Archon. They killed the guards. They amassed a force and will soon have a war camp established. I see. I will inform Lord Vect. Have the soul cages readied. They shall taste the full fury of our powers. Lord Vect is here? On Lacune? Yes, now go! The soul cages!
There are few things the Dark Eldar fear, but many are the things they hate. In the eyes of the Archon Tahril, these Blood-Raven Space Marines were a grand object of disgust. They stood for order and the upstart human race, and worst of all, claimed to be warriors second to none in the galaxy. To hate, the Archon added insult. The idea that any should be feared so much as his own Blackheart Kabal was a personal affront. The time had come to prove his superiority and punish the Blood Ravens for their offense of existing.
And what is this? A little insurrection? Swift death is too good for such miserable wretches as these.
Ah! Petty outposts flank our camp. Shall we guard our base, or crush these pests?
They have been allowed to get far too close to us. Use all the powers of our soul cages against them. I command it.
Yes, Lord Vect. It is better to use those souls and annihilate these upstarts.
Then go! And see to it that you do not fail.
Now they shall pay handsomely for their impudence. Summon a Kabal fortress and the slaves. Make haste, cretins! There is much sport and many souls to be had, but only if our attack is swift. Archon, we have detected energy sources which can be nothing if not special field generators. We have scryed several points of origin. Sneaking? I think not. Look at their pathetic transports, which cannot fly, which have no guns. They are weak mimics of our own raiders. Still, we should tear their factories to pieces all the same. Ah! I see the Kabal fortress has been summoned. A slave, too. We shall build quickly and stay on the attack. Let us move with deadly speed and silence, and blot out these fools from off this world.
Men, most of the prisoners in this quadrant are Blood Ravens. Our first objective is to set them free, arm them, and push forward. The first cage is right ahead of us. Freed!
Venerate the immortal Emperor.
I knew a Blood Raven would hold true.
My powers are yours to command.
Run while you can. I am angry now. I am faster than you, and when I catch you, your death will be slow and exquisite.
My mind is focused and ready for action. I know no fear.
That is but a taste of the pain to come.
I shall feast upon your entrails!
What Indrick Boreale found in the Dark Eldar moon base confirmed every suspicion he had harbored regarding these debased aliens. Such a vile race must be cut out, like a tumor, wherever it manifested. It required all his faith to look upon the atrocities and depravities he found in that place and not go mad. By the time that the Blood Ravens reached Lacunae, there was little that the Dark Eldar could have done to defend themselves or escape with their lives. Thinking their moon base safe from notice or harm, they had squandered any chance of rebuffing the Imperium's super soldiers that they could possibly have gained. The Space Marines struck their moon base with force, and the element of surprise, routing the Blackheart Kabal and rendering them a non-threat to Imperial forces.
My dais is damaged, but I shall return.
Archon! Our mandrakes have spied a camp not far from here. They said it was in the direction of the last attack.
Strike not the arm but the heart, you worthless curs!
They're Archon, whom they serve like the groveling slaves they are. We have seen him. He is by their...
What? How did he slip from our clutches? We, old of years and keen of sight. When we get him, I myself shall strip the flesh from his living corpse. Aha! I have underestimated him. Look, he somehow got himself to safety. I will take great joy in showing him his own entrails.
What? One of our soul cages destroyed? They will pay!
We have 2 reasons, then, to pay him a visit.
Commander, 2 enemy camps have been observed nearby. Given our current force, attacking them directly would be ill-advised.
We have servitors. Construct a stronghold on the double.
My dais will crush you, wretched worms!
The Dark Eldar penchant for speed, fear, and striking from the shadows served them poorly when they found Force Commander Indrick Boreale pounding on their door. No amount of running or hiding could save them. The Archon Tahril's band of pillagers were no match for a full army of Space Marines. Unable to hide or run in their own base camp, the Dark Eldar fell before the invaders' fire. The Blood Ravens swept over the Blackheart Cabal's compound on the moon of Lacunae, crushing everything under their mighty martial treads.
Retreat! I require repairs!
If it is as I fear, we must do all that we can to halt their progress. What? Ah, I have discovered the secret of these teleportation tricks. They hail from one point, one of their shrines. Destroy it, and that grievance shall trouble us no more. Warriors, listen to me.
Another soul cage? Miserable scum! If you do not guard the lost cage with your very lives, I will teach you new meanings of the word pain!
Death is my meat. terror my wine. Follow me, curs. There, we gaze upon it, the source of all those armored transports. We have found it. Ha ha! The enemy's manufactorums. Not for long. We must be wary of these guard patrols. There may be another way. Archon, we must not tarry. Stay away from there, fools. I'll tell you when the time is right.
Archon, how hard can it be to destroy...
There are mines here. That's the sort of trick I would play. You think that will stop us for long? Listen to me, you dogs. We must move as a single lethal blade. We must cut through the defenses ahead of us, and then, as swift as lightning, clear a foothold for ourselves. Do you understand? Do you? Good. Then we go. Let us melt their factories and feast on their mechanics.
Predator at your command.
This is a suitable fighting force.
What is this? Tanks? Whoever can remove this nuisance from our path will have the first pick of slaves on the morrow.
The machine spirit shall protect us.
These petty tricks grow wearisome. We wield powers you cannot even imagine.
I am a storm of agony and fear hard upon you. Beg for mercy! Your end approaches. It is me.
Ah, the commander takes the field. If I'm not mistaken. Space Marines! That command craft is your new target. Take it down and the field is ours.
The chaotic powers that twisted the nature of the Dark Eldar made them remarkably strong, but not as strong as the Blood Ravens, who smote, purged, and pulverized every vestige of taint they found on the moon of Lacune. All that dark iniquity was consumed in flame, and the valiant Space Marines did not rest until the ground beneath them was thoroughly cleansed and sanctified. Perhaps the Archon Tahril's kind had grown weak or complacent in the safety of their moonbase. Whatever the cause, they were unprepared for the force of the assault which Force Commander Indrick Boreale led against them. With the cold inevitability of fate, the Blood Ravens swept the Black Heart Kabal forces from the surface of the moon, along with all evidence of their depraved deeds.
They have somehow managed to destroy our soul cages. Quickly, we must fall back to defensive positions. Take me back, you fools! We need more firepower! All our soul cages gone. I am displeased, Tahril. Heads shall roll. Perhaps yours.
I hope never to fight such a thing again.
Tahril, I did not come to this moon to be trapped and shot at by impudent slaves. Beat them back and slaughter every one of them.
Are you sniveling fools or Dark Elder warriors? Go! Go and kill many before you are killed, or I will kill you now.
Yes, immediately.
Hardly. These barbaric fools will scream just as sweetly when I run my blade through them. Let us slay them in their pens before they release more of them. Ha ha! What have we here? You thought you could elude us? You cannot hide here. We see all, and you will die by our hands.
Looks like we've been spotted, men.
The time of your suffering is about to begin.
The wretched Dark Eldar draw near. Ready yourselves, blood ravens.
See how you like us now!
We will descend upon the foe. We will overwhelm them. We will leave none alive.
The Space Marines were horrified at the tortured and mutilated comrades they saw there. And when their victory was near, this was channeled into a vindictive rage which did not subside until the enemy's buildings and vehicles were shattered, leveled, and then crushed into dust. Now their time had come. With ordered effectiveness, the Blood Ravens were able to take the Dark Eldar off their guard, swiftly scattering their forces and obliterating all that did not flee back into their webway retreat, where the Marines could not follow.
Back! Back! Tahril, you fool! I will have your head for this. Quickly, back to Kabal. Well, if he had died, I should have taken his place. Now I must flee. What? Your life ends here.
Long have I waited for this moment of vengeance.
Tahril's humiliating defeat sent Asdrubael, Vect, and sundry other Dark Eldar fleeing back into the webway. Force Commander Boreale issued specific orders, however, to allow the small number of fleeing Dark Eldar to escape. It was his full intent that news should reach the Dark Eldar home city of Commorragh of his victory and their defeat. Of the Space Marines recovered from the torture grounds and slave chambers, many had been so tortured or mutilated that they were no longer fit for service. Still, undergoing these privations was no dishonor in the eyes of the brothers Space Marines, and they were sent out directly for medical treatment and inquisitorial review. Meanwhile, General Stubbs and his Imperial Guard had invented a new sport, which involved putting Dark Eldar into their own cages and seeing how far they could throw them in the moon's reduced gravity. The Dark Eldar who were not slaughtered or fled found themselves subject to the Imperial Guard's cruel games. The 252nd Regiment made sport of their victims in the very cages and torture chambers in which their own brethren had been made to suffer. A just reward indeed, from the evil to the depraved. Several Imperial psychers attempted to harness and tame the warp beasts they found, but without any luck. General Vance Stubbs did not let his Imperial Guard linger for long, however. Ultimately, Lacune was one in a line of provinces to be crushed by the Imperium. Force Commander Boreale was greatly pleased when he vanquished the Dark Eldar, but was even more elated at how worthy an adversary these troublesome foes proved. One can weary of docile playthings, but no Space Marine ever feels so alive as the moment when one stands victorious, having narrowly skirted defeat and death. Boreale considered it the greatest compliment to the slain Archon Tahril when he placed his severed, shrunken head on the upper tassel of his warbelt. The battle was a memory that Boreale would cherish for many years to come.